Join us.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
Up, welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones, and in this one, we're gonna add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, this time it will be Superboy Prime. Now, I did find two of these at Target. One I will be keeping in box for my unopened DC Multiverse collection, and the other we will be taking a look at today. Now, actually, this is a figure that I'm really looking forward to just taking a look at. I love Superboy, but I actually like more the Connor Kent black shirt version. But the more I read about Superboy Prime and the more I get into his backstory, he is winning me over quite a bit. Now, he does look really epic in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with a DC Multiverse clear flight stand. McFarlane usually gives these with a flying figure. You do attach it here, and you could use it as a flight stand. Pretty sweet. He also comes with his data file card. On the front you have some figure photography, and on the back you do have some information. Now, we're still, hearing cries about that they should use the comic book artwork, and I actually agree with that. It just gives you a better reference of what the figure is supposed to portray, but I'm not sure if it's due to licensing rights or it has to get approved and it's not getting approved in time. But we are giving somebody work, so he should be at least acknowledged that he's doing the figure photography for us. So that's pretty cool. We'll add this to the collection. Let's go ahead and take a look at him. Now, first impressions, tons of extra parts on here, tons of unique sculpt work on here. I mean, even starting just with the chest shield, that's like a brand new, sculpt that could be used in future, on future figures, so I don't mind it at all. New head sculpt, I mean, just tons of extra parts that don't usually come with another release. So for me, that kind of adds into where he doesn't come with a lot of accessories or any at all, but the tubes and the armor and the new head sculpt and all that stuff adds up to where I know what the value in this figure is, and it is a brand new character that we have not seen before. Now, of course, some people are really divisive. Some people like this figure. Some people say it's not exactly comic book accurate. Some people don't like the head sculpt. But I mean, this is what it is. This is what we've received. And I, for one, am really appreciative to get a Superboy Prime figure. Now, if I decide to customize it or add different things, that's on me. And everybody is entitled to have their figures the way they want in their own collection. So, I'm open to everybody having their figures the way they want them, and that's, their preference. But my preference is not your preference. So let's take a closer look at the head sculpt. Of course, off the bat, the side-eye view once again. Now, I'm really torn on this, honestly, because if you actually turn him like the way he's supposed to look, with the side-eye, it actually gives him a little bit more character and more like a distinct look of what he's supposed to be. But I do understand that it kind of limits the way you can pose him because he's obviously looking over to the left side. Now, I do agree with Josh from before figs that it's kind of getting a little bit frustrating. But all in all, it is what it is. This is what we've received, and like I said before, he does look really striking when you pose him, actually, looking at him at an angle, but sadly that limits the way you can actually pose him. But pretty cool. Now another thing about the head sculpt is he doesn't really look like a young teenager, like let's say 15, 16, but he does look like an older adult, which I think in the recent comics, that's more what he's supposed to be, like, above 20 years old, in his 20s. And they captured that perfectly. And also, surprisingly, if you put him next to the original 1000 Superman, he kind of does have a resemblance to like an older, that's an older version of this character. So it all kind of ties in. For me, anyways, I think it's okay. Now, people say he should have like a screaming or a grimacing face, and that's one way to go. But if you look at the comics, a lot of times he's not, beating the crap out of somebody, which he's really good at. A lot of times he's like, just pondering or talking to or communicating with Crypto, the dog. So you don't always see him, screaming and fighting, but that is how most people recognize him as, when he's, throwing down. And I actually agree with that. But this is the version we've received, so we got to work with it. Now let's check the articulation. He does look down very well. Now, he cannot look up pretty much because the back of his head hits his collar of his armor. Now, you can mod this, and I actually already did. And that way he can look up really well. And it's a simple mod. You pop off the head and make a little notch towards the back of the neck. And that gives you way more dexterity of looking up. And then now even that adds to the way he has the side eye. Now he could look up and to the side. So it adds another little dimension of his posability. Pretty beautiful face sculpt though. I have to give him that. But he can also turn to the left. Turn to the right. And you can tilt his head for some attitude, which he definitely has. Pretty sweet head sculpt there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the chest. Look at that emblem. I just love that sculpted out, embossed Superman shield. Love it. Going down into the abdominal area. Now, here's something I've been really hearing a lot about, and I mean, you have to take into consideration that some figures will do one thing, while some figures, may not. And you can't just talk crap about a whole line because some figures don't do what some other figures do. It is what it is. Now, I have heard that there's mods to where you can pop off the chest abdominal parts and then put notches in, and then it'll give them more range forward, which is a simple fix, but you shouldn't have to do that. But that is an extra process at the factory, which I guess they just don't want to do because they're trying to get these out for $20, so it is what it is. But I have not done anything to that part. I only modded out the head so he could look up. But actually, look at this. He actually bends forward really well, almost to where the upper ab touches the belt. And that's just how he came. So if anybody says that, McFarlane figures can't bend forward, well, that's some of them. It's not all of them. But this one does, gratefully, this one does. And that means that he could lean back, way back. Right? Of course, you have tilt from side to side. You have that McFarlane all the way around, rotate, like, range of motion for the ab part, the abdominal area. And then you can twist him to put him in some cool poses. Now, another thing I hear a lot about is the ab waist swivel. People will say, well, he does swivel at the top chest, but he doesn't swivel at the lower part. I have yet to find a figure that will not swivel as long as you put some muscle into there. Look, he has lower ab swivel. He has lower ab swivel. I didn't heat him up or anything. It's there. you can't just touch the figure and say, oh, he doesn't have it. You have to, put some effort into it, but it is what it is. The range of motion for this particular figure is fantastic, and I'm really digging it. Now let's take a look at his arms. He does have the typical butterfly movement at the shoulder. Now, I heard a lot of people saying, whoa, you can't lift his arm up at all because the armor's up here connected to the upper shoulder. But actually, these do move, so you can actually, push it up. And he does go above 90 degrees. Now, of course, it is obstructed, like if he wants to lift his arm up, but not all the figures are the same, and you got to work around it. But it is limited a little, but you can get it where you want it if you try. He does have a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, can get to his ear, and then moving down into, I love the tubing work. I'm just one that appreciates it. This one is connected to the back of the shoulder pauldron, wraps around and goes into his forearm where his gauntlets are. Beautiful, beautiful work there by McFarlane. I love the colors on this guy, the contrast between the reds, the yellows, the deep blues, and even some added black to, break it up, add some intensity. Really beautiful. Just great figure. Moving down. Now, this is where I don't always agree, but it's weird because some figures do look different than others, but maybe if the wrist ball was silver, it would look like a cleaner transition into the hand, but they did make it flesh. Now, I might get another one and paint it silver and then try it and just see how it looks. And if the flesh one looks better, I'll leave it, but if the silver one looks better, then I'm going to probably paint it and, add that detail for my own figure. Now the hand, this is something that Marvel Legends cannot not do, which is move on a hinge up and down like that, and then you twist it and it moves the other way. So that's 4 ranges of motion, like this and like this. That is allowed by the ball joints that they use. Now, could they be hidden better, or if you make them a different color, could they be less, distracting? Yes. But let's work with it. I really love the range of dexterity you could get with those ball joints, aside from the unappealing look of sometimes the way it looks. Now, let's talk about the hands, because they did give us just 2 open kind of flying hands. And of course, Superboy needs a fist, so I will be popping off this hand and adding a fist. Not typically right now, but just to see how it looks. I do have an extra fist, and I will be matching the skin tone, and then maybe I'll Dremel it out so that it fits like more smoother. But actually also when I change the color of the ball joint, it might look more cleaner, but I will be doing this to this figure, changing out the hand. To give him a fist, just pop this back on. Okay. Moving down to the waist, he has his red trunks, more tube work. Let's check out his thigh swivel. Now, see, this one, it is there, but it's, I've picked up a lot of these that have a lot of cool thigh swivel, but this one is less. It's there, but it's not really a lot. But surprisingly, you can get some good, articulation in the hip. And then he does have double jointed knees. Now, here's another hindrance at the boot, and that is that you could get some movement up, but going down, it kind of gets restricted by his like armor right here. It won't go down too much, it butts up. But, either I'm gonna mod that, or let's see what I could do to fix it. But he still has left to right. He still has rocker. And then of course toe articulation. Now, in a complete look at the bottom part of this figure, a lot of people would know that the boots are actually supposed to be red. Now that is in pretty much all of the comics. I think I've seen some covers where they're silver because the artists like they did it like that, but they are really, really all in all they're supposed to be red. So that's another thing I'm gonna change is I'm gonna pop out that silver ball, put in a red one, and then paint the boots red. So that's another change I'm gonna do on this guy, just to make them a little bit more comic accurate. And like I said before, you do your figures the way you want, and I'll have mine the way I want. But the sculpt work is there. The legs are different than any of the other figures we've received before, and also the boots and the upper armor, the calf armor is different as well. So like I said before, tons of original sculpt work here. Let's take a look at the bottom. Now here he has some pretty crazy tread. It looks like just like some hexagon kind of design, but I appreciate it. Going up the back, like sculpt work with the tubes. Look at all these tubes, the length of them that they had to add on. And then up the back you have more tubes, more sculpt work, his red trunks, and then the cape. Now the cape is actually mirrored in the Superman 1000, but it is smaller and it's more pliable. You can kind of ball it all up into a ball. So I really appreciate that, advancement of the technology. And then it goes up into this upper shoulder armor, which is another new sculpted work. So pretty cool. I am going to add some metallic blue to accent all this armor. It's going to still be silver, but I just want to add a little bit of highlights of metallic blue. I'm going to change the fist. I'm going to change the boots. And then the final thing I'm going to do something for you guys. I'm going to show how to fix the side eye. Now, there is a reason I'm doing this, and that is because I'm going to fix the side eye, and I'm going to show you guys a real simple trick how to do it. But at the end, I'm actually going to be painting his eyes red now. All in all, once I do those changes, I think he's going to look pretty badass. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I might do it with a quick turnaround, and actually the next video might be, showing you guys how to fix the eyes, changing the boots, changing the hand, and we'll do that for you guys. Now, McFarlane's don't stand on their own. I guess for you guys they don't, but for me they do. Now, this is the first iteration that I picked up of Superboy Prime, which is DC Direct. Now, if you want to see a figure that has limited articulation, this one has 5 POA. So, people bought this and they were happy with it, with minimal articulation and not really a pretty nice head sculpt, but his eyes were red, which was pretty cool. And then, of course, I have the DC Universe Classics Superboy Prime. As you can see, he has the red boots, but this was the blue armor where in his first version. But you can see how far we've come from this to the McFarlane version. Now, I actually have this guy in box in my unopened DC Universe Classic collection, but I bought this one offline to have one loose, and he came with his eyes already red, but I don't think that was the original release the way he was. But this head sculpt I'm really not a fan of. If you look at it, it looks really flat. He has like some big ears. Doesn't really look like Superman at all. And people buy this one. He's actually pretty expensive on the aftermarket. And people are happy with this one. And now they're complaining about this one. So I, for one, am really appreciative to have this beautiful figure to add to my collection. You guys, keep hunting out there. Keep collecting. Keep customizing. And I will see you on the next one.